New Orleans, not so much a place as a state of mind. A birthplace of American music, home to fun-loving people with a zest for life. South Louisiana has not always been an especially easy place in which to live, from yellow fever epidemics to tropical disasters, including the worst catastrophe to confront a modern U.S. city.
There is no way to imagine America without New Orleans.
20 years later, new storm defenses guard much of the area as people confront new challenges, the financial storm of rising insurance premiums, and a new exodus by many of our neighbors. Yet the music lives on.
I'm Dixie.
Here is the story of a people determined that Katrina would not be the end. A story of our journey. Hello, I'm John Snell.
And I'm Meg Gatto. The path home wasn't always easy in the last 2 decades.
But as Rob Krieger explains, our journey is reinforced by the spirit that brought people back.
Southeast Louisiana and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. There's just nowhere like it, where the daily catch is always a bounty.
Oh yeah, you get hooked. You get it in your veins, and that's it. You can't take it out.
And your backyard, teeming with prehistoric creatures. Where your favorite team sends swine airborne.
It's good! It's good! Pigs have flown! Hell is frozen over! The Saints are on their way to the Super Bowl!
And a smiling face is always just around the corner.
This place here, you're gonna find new friends that you never found before.
A place shaped by communities whose charm springs from the landscape and finds pace in traditions married with flavor.
Today is Monday in New Orleans. What does that mean? Rabies!
It's a place where the drinks are to go and the party happens in the same space where pirates once indulged.
Jean Lafitte's blacksmith shop. All the wood in that building is from the Cypress.
Where history is rooted in the ever-changing environment.
You know, a lot of people talk about the gateway to the West, St. Louis. The gateway to the West is right here in New Orleans.
Split by the river, from the bayous to the lake, no matter how far you wander, the call never falls silent.
Automatic magnet.
But more than anything, Southeast Louisiana is our home.
It is in our blood. It's what we know. It's what we love. Welcome in, guys. Y'all came back, huh? So we gonna hold on to that and fight for it. Welcome to
For more than 75 years, the Baquet family made good on that promise, right in the heart of the Treme.
Welcome to Dizzy's. How y'all doing?
Arkisha Baquet doesn't mess around when it comes to her family's recipes.
It's grilled trout with shrimp and crawfish on top and a lemon butter sauce with any...
Baquet starts every morning with a prayer
Let's go get it.
and a greeting to the guests lined up to get a taste.
How many, cutie? 2 at 7. Everybody treats everybody like family, like you've known them for years. You don't feel like a stranger.
Now, serving up a plate of fried seafood doesn't hurt either, especially when just a few right turns can get you from the table to the dock.
It's home, but it's also a getaway.
Ryan Serenay's family is just one of many that keeps the flow of fresh seafood plentiful. Nestled in the meandering bayous of Delacroix, both peace and play are within reach.
You can come stay at your camp, go fishing during the day, and then you can go enjoy Bourbon Street, a Saints game in New Orleans. I mean, what more do you want?
From the oak-lined avenues graced annually with kings and queens, to the bevy of sounds bursting from the streets. Want it or not, there's plenty more people find simply spellbinding.
It's magical.
Captain Randy Fabre is determined to keep that magic alive, piloting airboats through Bayou Barataria and educating visitors about the essence of what makes this place so unique.
These 2 trees right here, anywhere from 100 to 300 years old. You notice how blue they are? They look purple. It's called the purple gallonoo. The way the neutrals dig the holes in tunnels leaves this land very vulnerable to wash away.
Oh, yeah. Brimming with a wealth of knowledge about this place, even the disconcerting truths, the magic is more than enough to outweigh any flaws.
I worked from Florida to California to Indiana, Illinois. I've been all over. Something about this place that I just can't shake.
Ever-changing but hallowed grounds, eternally entwined by water and consecrated by the people who came back.
It's a blessed place, man.
Luckiest people on earth.
I'd rather be here than anywhere else.
Because nowhere else is home.
You can never feed my soul or give me what I get from living in New Orleans.
One critical part of the journey involved addressing the levees that so horribly failed the city. Prior to Katrina, New Orleans had a hurricane protection system in name only. Today, much of the area is vastly better protected. There's fruit in the blender at the Main Squeeze franchise in Lakeview. And outside, no missing this spot for healthy smoothies or the message about how happy they are to be here.
Made a statement, made a bold statement that we are here for you.
Co-owner Dr. Brittany Adams will tell you that Lakeview, over the last 20 years, has roared back.
Oh, it's vibrant, it's moving, it's very popular now.
A way to have tasty beverages but also have health benefits.
Ty Washington, her partner in the business, grew up in Gentilly, 15 when Katrina struck. In those formative years, the family was stuck in Atlanta for a time, the future very uncertain.
I chose to embrace it though. Like take that difference that I came from this, this area, this culture, and just take that with me wherever I go, because home is literally where the heart is.
Their choice of location also constitutes a vote of confidence in the new levee system that surrounds New Orleans.
I feel like a lot of time was taken into doing this properly this time. Despite whatever may have happened last time, this time there is a sense of renewed confidence in the system.
Soil beneath the levee was unsuitable for that type of construction.
Civil engineer H.J. Bosworth explains the levees could not withstand the enormous pressure Katrina's surge exerted on them, and sheet pilings driven into the earth turned out to be too short.
When the water came up, the water went through the unsuitable material, which was deep beneath the earth, put pressure against the canal or the levee, and the levee slid towards people's houses and broke into pieces.
In the aftermath, the Army Corps of Engineers installed 150 miles of improved levees and flood walls. In many spots, it replaced concrete panels shaped like an eye atop the levees with upside-down T-shaped walls, supported by a sheet pile driven farther into the earth and foundation piles driven at an angle for extra support. Today, there's armoring where flood walls meet earthen levees.
It's a whole different world than what it was when Hurricane Katrina hit.
Chris Dunn is chief of the engineering division of the Corps' New Orleans district.
Surge was able to penetrate deep into the city.
The most prominent feature might be what locals nicknamed the Great Wall, a 2-mile-long, 26-foot-high surge barrier, a feat of modern engineering built in the soupy conditions of the marsh, with piles driven a couple hundred feet into the earth. The West Bank got a shiny new system, including the world's largest drainage pumping station. On the lakefront, floodgates close during a tropical event. Giant pumps fire up to drain the city. The surge never gets to the outfall canal levees, so badly compromised in Katrina.
If a carbon copy of Katrina, same duration, same intensity, same path,
same size, yeah.
Everything about it was the same. Happened today. What would happen to New Orleans?
We would test the system. In all likelihood, I would bet that nothing terrible would happen.
The Corps takes pains to stress this is not a guarantee against flooding. The system is designed to be overtopped.
Mother Nature bats last. There is always a bigger storm.
In military terms, the new system takes the front lines of the battle against surge farther from the populated areas.
The city overall is better prepared if we have to go through something like that again.
Other parts of the area made dramatic improvements in their levees. Lafourche and Terrebonne parishes actually did much of the work on their own. And construction is underway to bring the Laplace area its first hurricane protection.
Nearly 20 years later, some people living and working in the lower Ninth Ward say progress is hard to find. Despite that, there's an undeniable commitment to that community. Don Trung brings us the story from the lower 9.
During Hurricane Katrina, a torrent of water from the Industrial Canal overtopped and overpowered the levee in the lower Ninth Ward. This is a bird's eye view. But 20 years ago, James Ackerson saw the flooding up close and personal.
And I'm looking down Galvez toward Jordan Avenue, and I see two big old waves coming past the oak trees. And I'm like, Lord.
Ackerson's family evacuated. He stayed. Ackerson says a wall of water pushed his home right off its foundation. He quickly jumped into his boat, but the water kept coming.
It jammed me up against the back of my house. And so I was stationary right there until the water calmed down.
Ackerson says those were frightening hours.
It was rough, man. And then I was watching my neighbor and them, and I'm trying to tell them, hey, man, sit still. Don't do nothing crazy, because they was on the roof, but I guess they was panicking, him and his son. And his son jumped in the water, and we never saw him again.
When the flooding settled, Ackerson says he took his boat and carried more than 100 stranded people to the Claiborne Bridge. The last person he rescued was his father. This is a picture of the men who were with him on that mission.
I know I didn't have that much gas in it, and by the grace of, I'm just say, man, by the grace of God, I was able to run that boat for 2 days.
In the immediate aftermath, the lower Ninth Ward became a sort of ground zero for the storm, putting a spotlight on the poverty and dysfunction in New Orleans. 20 years later, some people living and working in this predominantly black neighborhood say not much has changed.
But what I do know, you should not have to catch 3 city buses to make groceries for your family. This is not a third world country.
Following Katrina, Burnell Cotlin took an old building on what was then Caffin Avenue, and in 2009 opened Burnell's Lower Ninth Ward Market, because he says the Lower 9 is a food desert.
Because if I wouldn't have done this here, we wouldn't have anything. The closest real grocery store other than this gas station up on St. Claude, it's Walmart in the next city.
There have been rebuilding efforts down here in the Lower Ninth Ward since Hurricane Katrina. But residents like Burnell Cotlin will tell you that they've been far from consistent. On many streets, you'll find boarded up properties right next to empty lots.
Other parts of the city, you wouldn't even know Katrina even exists. We're still dealing with Katrina back here. This is all we have.
According to analysis by the data center, the number of households in the Lower Ninth Ward has fallen almost 65% since Katrina. Before the storm, there were roughly 4,800 households. Now, about 1,700. In 2008, James Ackerson finished rebuilding a new home in the same spot where Katrina took his first one. What he wishes for isn't a big grocery store or a pharmacy, but better roads.
Y'all use the Lower Ninth Ward as the catalyst to say, all right, this way it happened, that is bad. Y'all got that money. I know you got it. Fix the streets.
Ackerson doesn't second-guess his decision to stay for the storm which changed so many lives 20 years ago. The one regret, he says, was not being able to save more people in the only neighborhood he's ever called home. In the Lower Ninth Ward, Tan Trung, Fox 8 Local First.
2 decades after the storm devastated St. Bernard Parish, the first day of school still carries special meaning.
Maddie Kurth shares their story of resilience and recovery.
It's a new school year in St. Bernard Parish. First day nerves, new notebooks, and a hallway filled with possibility. 20 years ago at Chalmette High and throughout St. Bernard Parish, nothing seemed possible.
There was a wall of water coming down Judge Perez, something that I'd never seen before. And it was tossing cars like they were toys you see in the movies.
Yeah. I couldn't wait to come back. Despite the scattered population and lack of basic services, just 11 weeks after the storm, school was back in session. Then senior Mariana was determined to finish high school where she started.
When I walked in through this school, it was very much like I'm home.
Even if it meant her quick 3-block stroll from her front door to her homeroom turned into an hour-long drive.
And I drove every single day from Covington to here.
It wasn't comfortable, but it was just what she needed. Portable trailers sent in from the Carolinas took over the Chalmette High football field, forming the St. Bernard Unified School. On November 14th, 2005, Superintendent Doris Voce welcomed any child in the area in need of a place to go and a hot meal to eat while their parents hauled debris and sorted through insurance claims. Anna says those makeshift classrooms were a saving grace.
We would just come to Shawmut High, and it was the brightest spot in the worst time of my life.
Brandy Goche had her 9-year-old son in St. Bernard schools when the storm hit. She says her kids struggled to fit in anywhere else.
It was wonderful being able to come back and put them back in school. This was home. You know, once they had trailers and they said, we have schooling for your kids, y'all can come on back.
$500 million of school renovations completely rebuilt 12 schools by braiding FEMA funding, insurance payouts, grants, and community fundraising.
And we were able to do that without spending a penny of local money.
Students now have access to an Olympic-sized swimming pool, planetarium, and a performing arts center that rivals college campuses across the state. Data from the most recent U.S. Census shows parish-wide enrollment rates remain largely unchanged since before the storm. That's despite St. Bernard's population losing nearly 23,000 residents.
And this is where they grew up for generations of family.
Census figures show the nearly 44,000 people who did come back rebuilt the parish as close to the pre-storm way of life as possible, but with a modern lens.
So when it came time to choose where I wanted to teach, it was always only St. Bernard.
Mariana points to the St. Bernard educators who inspired her, like the nation's longest-serving principal, Shawmut High's Wayne Warner.
I wanted to be able to create this impact, or help create the impact that I had growing up.
Business is returned too. The census shows there are nearly 700 open now in St. Bernard. Most familiar storefronts have changed to accommodate the new makeup of parish people.
Our neighborhood, at first we had no kids in it. After the storm now, we have kids everywhere. There's life, a lot of life.
Just stop by any of the new public playgrounds, another massive investment.
You can't even tell that a hurricane even hit that because it's that nice. You know, it's families can get together there, you can watch the ducks. It's homey. It makes it home.
Even though so much has changed, those that made it back home say the heart of the parish remains intact. And each day, they live by the words they heard through the halls of Shawmut High.
The choices you make today will shape your world tomorrow.
And with each choice, they live St. Bernard strong.
It was sad, the things that we lost, but I think a lot of us came out a lot stronger.
Maddie Kurth, Fox 8, Local First.
The decades since Katrina also highlighted an issue equally persistent, the insurance crisis. Sabrina Wilson looks at how Katrina impacted the market and what's being done now to lower costs.
Brian Abedy manicures his lawn in between raindrops. 20 years ago, floodwaters took over his St. Bernard Parish home.
I was here, it was about maybe 9 feet. I had a little bit of water on my second floor.
Katrina's catastrophic levee failures forced many to rebuild from the inside out.
The flood insurance went really pretty easy.
His claim for wind damage wasn't as easy.
Just had to have them come back multiple times. They had low figures that didn't match with what you needed.
South of New Orleans,
it was sad to watch New Orleans suffer like that.
Kim Dedivo Berg and her mother Virginia Dedivo live in Chauvin in Terrebonne Parish.
And everybody called me Miss Jean because I delivered the mail 40 years right here.
Miss Jean's property stretches to a levee.
That is Lake Boudreaux on that side.
Because of Katrina's storm surge, water rose here too.
Oh, everything was flooded. Everything. Mud, you name it.
Jim Donnellan was Louisiana's insurance commissioner for 18 years. When Katrina arrived, he had another role in the insurance department.
Were you guys planning for anything like that?
No way.
Dan Burkhart sells insurance.
After Katrina, with all the payouts, all the damages and all, they started rethinking the way they were going to do deductibles, the way they were going to change the coverages.
5 months after Katrina, Donnellan became insurance commissioner. Louisiana's insured losses were over $25 billion.
We had over 1 million claims filed for the two of Katrina, Category 3, 115 mile an hour winds. 3 weeks later, Hurricane Rita hit Lake Charles. The combination had over 1 million claims filed.
Rita's storm surge caused massive flooding in Terrebonne and Lafourche parishes. Rising premiums followed Katrina and Rita.
Personally, my own homeowner policy, I could tell you, went from $1,200 a year to $1,700 a year to $2,400 a year to $3,300 to $4,800 every year in a row.
Every year it goes up.
Tim Temple became insurance commissioner in 2024. When Katrina hit, he was a reinsurance broker. He says catastrophe modeling improved since Katrina.
You can use satellite imagery. There's a lot more tools to truly help an insurance company understand what its exposure is.
Ida hit Louisiana on August 29, 2021, on Katrina's anniversary. What caused 12 insurers to fail after Ida?
They didn't buy an adequate amount of reinsurance for the amount of business they had on their books.
As we talk today, 20 years after Hurricane Katrina, how would you characterize the insurance market in Louisiana?
Well, I think it's tough. It is still a crisis.
Still, he says reforms are helping.
The market is starting to come back. It is slow.
A lot of my friends don't have any insurance.
But high insurance costs are not enough to make them abandon their way of life along the bayou.
But I'm not moving. No, I can't leave the bayou.
Insurance crisis or not, I'm Sabrina Wilson, Fox 8 Local First.
The storm silenced the streets of New Orleans, but the spirit of the city never died.
Dave McNamara shows us how the music that's so intertwined with our culture reinvigorated the region.
Only 6 weeks after Hurricane Katrina wiped out most of New Orleans' neighborhoods and scattered families and friends across the country, this memorial to the passing of famous chef Leslie Austin marked the rebirth of a wounded city's heartbeat. This was the first jazz funeral, the first second-line parade through the devastated city after Katrina. The brass music, the drum beat, the high-stepping, dancing feet and clapping hands, the singing, the joy. The musical soul of New Orleans had not been silenced. It had been scattered, but not lost.
It impacted me a lot because I had to move to Texas for almost 2 years.
We passed through Houston, but we wound up in San Antonio.
And we started looking for somewhere to rent in Gonzales.
New Orleans musicians were tossed around the country, their homes destroyed, music venues gone, bands separated, and instruments lost.
Just didn't know what was going to ever happen, and how the city was going to overcome, a devastation like that.
But the musical heart of New Orleans never stopped beating.
It was a sad, but it sparked life in other places because New Orleans music got noticed and seen and heard by other people in other places around the country.
New Orleans never lost its soul. What happened was once they realized that New Orleans was rebuilding and those of us who could was coming back, I think they realized how much and how important the music industry and the other arts were important to the city.
It's New Orleans singing legend Irma Thomas said she was about to record an album when Katrina hit. The songs had already been selected before the hurricane.
Most of the songs on that album fit the situation that we were in at that time. Make me down a pallet on the floor. Make me down a pallet on the floor. Make me down a pallet on the floor. Play me down, so I don't have no place to go. And when I did that song, I could picture all of the homes where families who had gotten out of New Orleans, who had families in other cities and other states, was making pallets on the floor to be able to survive until they were able to get back on their feet to come back home.
Her Grammy-winning album, After the Rain, was released 8 months after Katrina. It expressed the loss so many were feeling.
As a band, we said that we were going to go on tour, and we started out in Minnesota. I could just remember playing my drum, and I remember crying, like so happy. It was just tears of joy to even be able to play my drum.
Derek Tabb was the drummer with the Rebirth Brass Band. When he returned to New Orleans, he co-founded the Roots of Music. The after-school program, now in its 18th year, provides musical training for children ages 3 to 18.
And I knew that it had saved my life and gave me an opportunity to do things that I would only dream about doing. So I wanted that for every kid to have that opportunity.
The Kinfolk Brass Band was founded months after Katrina.
I say, man, when everybody get back, I know we're going to have so much work.
3 of the musicians playing in Kinfolk today are graduates of the roots of music.
And I'm a professional musician. I've traveled all over the world, but I came out of the first class.
Now, this brass band and others scramble from one wedding to another, leading second lines for newlyweds and for conventioneers visiting New Orleans.
Everybody should start ringing the phone. Hey, I want to do a parade. I want to do a parade.
It almost seems like the spreading out also spread the music of New Orleans to maybe places it hadn't reached before, and people thought, this is pretty good stuff.
It happened. It happened. That's exactly what happened. Prior to that, we were taken for granted.
The music scene now is way more vibrant.
This is the sound of a New Orleans success story, a rhythm that even the city's worst hurricane could not destroy. Dave McNamara, Fox 8 Local First.
Through empty lots and blighted homes, you can still feel Katrina's presence in communities throughout southeast Louisiana.
But you can also see the drive to rebuild in the eyes of the people who live here. Our journey continues from New Orleans East to the North Shore to the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Next. 2 decades after Hurricane Katrina, small yet resilient Mississippi beach towns are hopeful for the future.
Shelby Latino takes us to Hancock County for a look at how far the recovery's come.
Hancock County, Mississippi, ground zero for Hurricane Katrina. Cities like Waveland and Bay St. Louis experienced Katrina's strongest winds and highest storm surge.
This is 25 feet above sea level.
We're on the 2nd story. That's how high the water's gotten. There's a boat floating down the street.
It took a long time to start rebuilding Waveland. You know, people would come here a year or 2 after Katrina to see what it was like. And they were like, you know, can't believe like a lot of building hasn't happened. What they didn't realize that the force of Katrina and her devastation literally meant that we had to redo all of our infrastructure.
Bernie Cullen sits on the board of the Ground Zero Museum. Thousands of visitors stop here each year to learn more about Katrina's impact and recovery in coastal Mississippi. She and Waveland's mayor, Jay Trapani, recognize their community's recovery is ongoing.
20 years ago, we had a lot of abandoned cars, abandoned RVs, boats left on the highway, businesses that were just totally destroyed. And if you go down Highway 90 now, there's a lot of businesses. They see the resilience.
But despite a more lively scene along the Highway 90 corridor, pre-Katrina, the heart of Waveland was Coleman Avenue, where dozens of businesses once stood. Today, only a handful have returned, but one soon-to-be new business gives the community a lot of hope: Ricky's Restaurant.
Chef Ricky's worked for us. He's going to smoke it. And just like when we built the Blind Tiger on the beach in Bay St. Louis, it created a chain reaction. In 2 years, Coleman Avenue will have 3 or 4 restaurants.
Thomas Jenin says he hopes Ricky's Restaurant sparks the successful comeback in Waveland that he saw in downtown Bay St. Louis when he opened the Blind Tiger in 2013.
And it was the first building built on the water side of Beach Boulevard in Bay St. Louis. And then, you know, shortly thereafter, some other things started happening on this side of the street. You will not find a higher concentration of foot traffic anywhere on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Bay St. Louis is like a miniature French Quarter on the weekends. I mean, it's that much foot traffic.
That's why Jenin says he can't wait to open Ricky's, a pre-Katrina favorite in Waveland.
It means a lot because, I mean, that was one of the places where everybody met, was at Ricky's. And everybody from here to Ocean Springs knew about Ricky's. When it opens, it's going to be a sign that Waveland is definitely on the way back.
It's an exciting prospect for residents who desperately want to see the heart of Waveland resurface. 2 decades after the storm.
I think it's going to be the start of something really good. I do.
In Hancock County, Shelby Latino, Fox 8 Local First.
Back in New Orleans, one neighborhood is hungry for more development.
As Tan Trong reports, Katrina forced many residents out of New Orleans East, but those who remain are in it for the long haul.
Since his family emigrated from Vietnam to the U.S. roughly 50 years ago, New Orleans, and specifically New Orleans East, is where Tung Le has lived. Le can't see himself anywhere else.
No, I love this community. I love it. That's why I don't go nowhere. Yeah. If I hate it, I move out, right? You know. Especially my kids, you know. My wife, they love it here too.
That love of the East, as it's often called, can be found in many neighborhoods in this predominantly black and Vietnamese community. Javon Ricard bought a home in the East 9 years ago because she says it brought her closer to her family.
I could have picked anywhere, but I just decided to come to the East because I feel like it was a safe place and a great place to live. So that was the reason why I chose to come to New Orleans East, and I wouldn't move, I wouldn't relocate.
Ricard lived in the East before Katrina. Along with tens of thousands of other people here, she suffered major losses when levee failures unleashed devastating flooding.
I had an apartment right on Chef Highway, and I was here for the hurricane. So I lost everything. My family, everybody who lived out here, my family, we lost everything.
Estimates of the overall population in New Orleans East in 2005 put that number around 95,000. In the years following the storm, it dropped significantly. The 2020 census had that number at around 75,000. That's a 21% decline. In the years after the storm, many residents say it's been an ongoing struggle to convince businesses and developers to invest in the East.
While there have been several large apartment complexes built, the establishment of New Orleans East Hospital, and movement to redevelop the old Six Flags amusement park, people like Tung Le says New Orleans East is starving for more grocery and retail options.
Family Dollar, General Dollar, everything closed. I don't know why, but you know, I go there. I go General, you know. But they closed, and now I got to go to Walmart.
We have Old Dixie, which we're grateful for. We have Walmart, but I just think a little bit more variety would be great.
Javon Ricard says the East has been stigmatized as the city's dumping ground and an area handcuffed by crime, which may factor into the lack of development here. But Kong Tran says whether it's crime or a lack of business development, more young people have left New Orleans East, including as kids.
Not only move out of New Orleans East, you move out of New Orleans, you move out of Louisiana. You know, for my case, all my 5 children is moved out and refuse to come back.
But on the flip side, you have people in New Orleans East who refuse to leave. People like Tung Le and Javon Ricard.
The reason why I stay, because my family's still here. My sister and all my family's still here. And all my relatives and friends like that I know still here, you know. Sometimes I want to move somewhere else, but you got to start from beginning.
If people don't know that we had a hurricane 20 years ago, you would never know. I mean, some houses you could look at it, you could tell, you know, that we've had some damage, but the way we've came back so strong, you wouldn't even know. And I feel like we could only get stronger and stronger, better and better, and we invest in our community.
The numbers will tell you that New Orleans East is smaller population-wise, but there are things not measured, like the commitment shown by those who remain.
It's smaller for sure, you know, but there's a good thing about it. We stick together, we help each other out. That's why a lot of people don't go just because of that.
In New Orleans East, Tan Trung, Fox 8 Local First.
Katrina forced thousands out of flood-damaged areas, with many shifting to the North Shore. That created growing pains on both sides of the lake. And as Rob Messon reports, adjustments are still being made.
Every 6 months, these former Chalmette High School football players gather to break bread and rekindle old friendships.
When they put the pads on, no one wanted to play against them. They were tough as nails.
But they're not dining in St. Bernard Parish. Instead, they're eating favorites like veal parmesan and baked macaroni from back home in the heart of Old Covington at Di Christina's.
St. Bernard, to us, it was a family parish.
It was a special for me. I mean, I thought I'd never leave it.
De Christina's was founded in 2005 by relatives of the family which runs the St. Bernard institution known as Rocky and Carlos.
You can't go anywhere and beat this. This is good.
After Katrina, De Christina says its customer base tripled as displaced flood victims sought comfort over the comfort food they had come to love.
Our restaurant became a melting pot. It was people just talking to each other, crying.
They were part of a North Shore growth spurt, which continues to this day.
I've seen growth from approximately 200,000 just before Katrina to over 275,000 people in St. Tammany Parish today.
With all St. Bernard flooded and major swaths of Orleans and Jefferson, thousands relocated to St. Tammany and Tangipahoa parishes, where new neighborhoods sprouted up in places like Robert and Ponchatoula.
We believe we had roughly 20,000 people move to Tangipahoa Parish.
St. Tammany in general, one of the reasons why it's been such a fast-growing parish is about 30,000 individuals did move from the South Shore to St. Tammany post-Katrina, and we know that many of them, perhaps the majority, came from St. Bernard.
The migration spread. Southern Mississippi towns like Picayune also provided new homes for Katrina transplants.
There's one section they call Chalmette North.
St. Tammany Parish President Mike Cooper says the North Shore post-Katrina migration put a strain on some services.
Growth has outpaced our infrastructure, roads and bridges, drainage, water and sewage utilities, and we've been investing this past 5 years in trying to catch up.
St. Tammany and Tangipahoa parishes enacted building moratoriums because road and utility infrastructure couldn't keep pace. Though thousands stayed in St. Tammany, Tangipahoa President Robbie Miller says many new residents in his parish returned to the South Shore.
Many of them bought homes and reestablished themselves for a year or two, and then probably over the next 3 to 4 years, 5 years after, and maybe even a little bit longer, we believe roughly half of them moved back home.
For a while after the storm, New Orleans and St. Bernard Parish enjoyed a population rebound. At one point, the St. Bernard Economic Development District says St. Bernard was the fastest growing parish or county in the U.S., but the population only rebounded to around 44,000 people, about 2/3 of its pre-Katrina level of 67,000.
What's happening now in St. Bernard is the population is beginning to flatline.
And after years of steady post-Katrina growth, the U.S. Census Bureau says New Orleans lost more than 20,000 residents between 2020 and 2024, with the population now at 362,700 people. Some blame the New Orleans population loss to once spiraling crime, as well as a lack of affordable housing and other factors.
And I think it's critical for the next mayor of New Orleans that he or she is able to articulate what the New Orleans of the next 5, 10, 25 years is going to look like. I think we also have not done nearly as good of a job as we need to in New Orleans in remediating blight and putting in other policies to allow density.
But at places like De Christina's in Covington,
If you come in here on Friday night and Saturday night, I see everybody who's jumping out over here every day.
more residents forced the owners to move into a larger space in the heart of Covington, serving up the kind of food these transplants and St. Tammany natives have come to crave 20 years after a hurricane few like to talk about anymore.
Love it. You always run into someone you know. It's a beautiful atmosphere.
Another 20 years would be nice.
Ramesh An, Fox 8 Local First.
Rebuilding damaged New Orleans schools took a little more than $2 billion federal dollars.
Liz Reyes explains that rebirth also transformed the traditional public school system, with impacts we still feel today.
This is New Orleanian Julio Bermudez Clata. The 28-year-old is proud of the life he's built after the trauma and adversity from Hurricane Katrina. He served in the U.S. Army Reserves, immersed himself in community work, and now he's the CEO and founder of his own nonprofit, Raíces Nuevas. It advocates for young people and immigrant communities. He credits his accomplishments to the confidence he gained after Katrina at one of New Orleans' newly created charter schools.
I don't think that my life would have been the same. Academically, I feel as if
I really needed that support system in my life.
At age 9, he and his family had to flee as Katrina's floodwaters filled up their New Orleans East neighborhood. He said they walked for 2 days before they were rescued. Like many other evacuees, they moved to Texas temporarily, and when they returned, the old public school system no longer existed. As the city rebuilt in 2005, the state restructured New Orleans public schools, transitioning to a charter school system. Now there are 69 charters in New Orleans, such as this one, Harriet Tubman Elementary. The big change was controversial because thousands of teachers lost their jobs, but the state says the student scores were among the worst in the nation. The state took over low-performing schools and turned them over to charter organizations, funded with taxpayer dollars. The charters control the hiring, the firing, and how students learn, but they can lose their operating license if test scores don't meet the parish standard. When the charters open, students apply to a variety of schools anywhere in the Orleans Parish District. Bermudez Clara graduated from one of those schools in 2015. The Net Charter High School in Central City offers flexible class hours, internships, and even daycare.
You have the opportunity to make your schedule and see how it fits your life, fits your schedule.
In 2018, the state returned administrative control of all charter schools to the Orleans Parish School Board, but the charters still control their curriculum. This recent Tulane University report looked at the impact of the reforms in the years after the storm.
We found drastic improvements in student test scores, in college graduation rates, in high school graduation rates, up to about 10 to 15 percentage points higher than what we would have found without these reforms.
Tulane researcher Jamie Carroll says while the test scores didn't keep spiking after 2015, they did sustain the gains.
Partly why we saw such a huge increase in the student test scores was because they started very low.
Yet, even with the academic progress, she says there are still unresolved issues. Some families question whether the charter system is fair because students from low-income families may have to travel farther to get to higher achieving schools, which are located in higher income neighborhoods. The Orleans Parish School Superintendent says the system has made tremendous progress, but they also recognize they have gaps to close.
So we are doing our part on this side to make sure that we have spaces for all of our families, because our goal is to be the destination for education in our city, and we want to make sure that we can meet the needs of our families.
For now, New Orleans remains a landscape of mostly charter schools. The Leah Chase Elementary School opened last year. It's the only school the Orleans School Board fully controls, 2 decades after Katrina. In the meantime, former students like Bermudez Clara hope other students can find the same academic success in the new schools that help make him the man that he is today. Liz Reyes, Fox 8, Local First.
Katrina fractured a way of life in Plaquemines Parish, and now a giant investment is transforming an area known for its seafood industry.
And how one New Orleans icon managed to bring smiles back to people's faces and spread hope like powder on a beignet. Our journey continues. Katrina made landfall in South Plaquemines Parish, where many remaining residents say the storm forever changed their community.
But as Tantrung reports, there is a massive sign of hope for the parish.
The Delta Marina looks and sounds like a fisherman's paradise. But 20 years ago, Mitch Jurisic saw something hellish.
To call it apocalyptic would not be a stretch.
No, it wouldn't be. No, it wouldn't. I mean, this whole area, 100%, nothing. There was no dwelling that was habitable at all. Where we're sitting right here, that's ground zero. The actual center of that big eye, cross right here where we're standing.
Back then, this is what greeted anyone returning to Lower Plaquemines Parish. Massive pogie boats blocking the base of the Empire Bridge. Homes flattened and pushed under roads or over levees. Dewey Palas's wife took these photographs.
After Katrina, we lost just about everything. I saved my boat. My other little boat is on the other side over there.
Palas is a lifelong shrimper from Boothville. This part of Louisiana historically relied on the sea for a living. Katrina put that in jeopardy. Mitch Jurisic is a third-generation oysterman.
Sad to say, we lost about 60% of our crop. Some of our reefs got scoured. You know, what was hard reef was now soft mud. Don't even know how that happened.
In those months after Hurricane Katrina, everything in South Plaquemines Parish had to be rebuilt. People down here in Empire and Beerus made St. Anne Church a priority. Jurisic says the storm pushed it off its foundation, but in 2006, it was brought back to life. The same can't be said for the communities around it.
We lost our big supermarket there, and we had restaurants that never come back. They didn't have no reason to come back.
Everywhere you see mobile homes, there's a good chance there was a house there prior to Katrina.
Now a member of the Plaquemines Parish Council, Jurisic says Katrina pushed many people to points north, like Belle Chase. Dewey Palas says some shrimpers chose to leave the state. According to census data, more than 28,000 people lived in Plaquemines Parish in 2005. That number last year was around 22,000.
It's hard. You know, you used to have friends you'd go visit all the time. Now you don't have that. It's not family, no families down here hardly no more. Not like it was back then.
Economy-wise, Jurisic says the parish's seafood industry has made a moderate recovery, but with familiar challenges of high fuel costs and foreign imports. Perhaps the most visible sign of viability is this: Venture Global's liquefied natural gas plant near Myrtle Grove. Located on 630 acres along Highway 23, the plant began production last winter after 3 years of construction.
We're gonna drill, baby, drill.
Back in the spring, federal and state leaders celebrated as the company announced an $18 billion expansion. When finished, Venture Global says its Plaquemines plant will be the largest of its kind in North America. For the parish, the company says the plant is a jobs creator and will generate millions of dollars in annual sales taxes. While environmentalists have raised concerns, Mitch Jurisic says the plant is a lifeline.
I mean, this really saved Plaquemines Parish because Plaquemines Parish was really getting in bad shape, you know, financially.
For Dewey Palas, as long as he has a boat, he has hope.
This is my home. I lived, born and raised down here. I don't want to live nowhere else.
The parish's future is living with effects from the past. The rebuilt South Plaquemines High School, home of the three-time champions Hurricanes football team, now stands 18 feet above the ground. Levees have been restored and strengthened. But if another Katrina ever threatened here...
So we're one disaster away, one major disaster away.
Jurisic says prayers would be needed. In Beerus, Tan Trung, Fox 8 Local First.
The city's made significant strides in the 20 years since Katrina. We've got new hospitals and schools, yet problems persist. And some say the scars of Katrina are still very visible today in neighborhoods across the region.
Well, during Katrina, we were here.
Sitting on her front steps in the lower Ninth Ward, Karen Griffin McMorris remembers some of the darkest days of her life.
Nobody was coming to rescue us.
Stranded in the place she called home, surrounded by Katrina's floodwaters.
And we saw helicopters with night visions on top of the Social Security building, just looking at us.
She didn't think life could get much worse in the lower Ninth Ward, yet she decided to return. Over the years, McMorris says she's seen some resources reach her neighborhood, but she's still waiting on real recovery. Do you think you would see more progress 20 years after the storm here?
Oh, I certainly thought we would. The finances have been put there, and now you just don't see where it's gone to. What did they do with it?
The data center says the federal government gave the city of New Orleans approximately $75 billion in emergency relief funds after the storm.
I don't think we've ever really decided on a true strategy for moving the city forward.
Charles Rice, the chief administrative officer under former Mayor Ray Nagin, explains different mayoral administrations had different priorities, leaving some big projects in limbo.
Let's use the municipal auditorium as an example. Still sitting vacant. No reason why that project should not have been done in some way, shape, or form.
Charity Hospital, another example.
I would venture to say if this was any other city in the country, that building would have come down 20 years ago.
Yet it remains a shell of its former self. In Mid-City, Mark Mascar with the Neighborhood Association wants something done with the old Lindy Boggs Medical Facility.
There's a lot of frustration. It's 20 years. It shouldn't still be like this.
It's changed hands over the years, but nothing has ever become of the site.
The problem is there's been so many different owners over the years with false promises. There's going to be this, it's going to be that, but nothing ever transpires. So I think people are just, it's 20 years now. They've had enough. They want to see something happen.
While some neighborhoods fight blight, others, like Lakeview, struggle with flooding.
Drainage is number one, and how the pumps haven't been brought up to what they're supposed to be in all these years is ridiculous.
Today, the city continues construction on its new Sewage and Water Board power complex. The goal is to generate its own energy to operate the drainage system. There is hope that the city's 100-plus-year-old drainage system will be better equipped to handle flooding events. And the city is spending $2 billion from FEMA working to improve streets and the infrastructure underneath. While some neighborhoods have seen road improvements, drivers in other areas across New Orleans dodge potholes, like in Algiers, where this street is sinking and unlevel. Neighbors say it's been like this for years and impacts public safety.
When we have to call the EMS or the fire truck, they're going to stop right here. They're going to have to back up and go out and go back out that way, because this here way, if you can look by that tree, that sinks down also.
What is your hope for this neighborhood?
I'm hoping that the community can pull together as one unit and voice their concerns, and that somebody would hear us.
Back in the lower Ninth Ward, McMorris sits in the same neighborhood where she once waited for rescue. 2 decades have passed, but her message today is just as urgent. What is your hope for this neighborhood?
I'm hoping that the community can pull together as one unit and voice their concerns, and that somebody would hear us.
Because the work isn't finished yet. Café du Monde was the first major tourism attraction to reopen after Katrina 53 days later.
It was the first time since the storm that I had been in a large gathering of smiling, happy people. That happy place endures today. When they fired up the fryers on that first day, it felt like a part of New Orleans came back. The national news media blaring the city was still alive.
On October 19th, after 53 days, we reopened, and we had all the major morning shows here. Everybody wanted to film the first beignet.
Jay Roman remembers his family being committed to getting back in business.
The discussion was, how fast can we do this? It was never about whether we do it or not.
There were challenges, of course, finding supplies, just getting things.
Our warehouse didn't flood, but the water on Airline Highway was pretty deep, so we had to wade in to get things, to just the basic staples, to come down and open.
Was there any doubt in your mind at any point that New Orleans would come back?
Maybe for the first 2 days when I was in Arkansas and looking, at the news reports and not having my own personal feelings about it. But once we came back, you could see the infrastructure was still here, and it was going to be a long haul, but we knew we'd be back.
Call it the power of powdered sugar. 20 years, multiple other hurricanes, and one global pandemic later, the beignets still draw people to this iconic spot.
The old saying was, we never closed unless the powdered sugar, until the wind got too strong to blow the sugar off the beignets. So it was nice to do the reverse.
Over the years, there have been improvements. While we're smaller, we're certainly better protected.
At the end of the day, our journey is a story of resilience.
And of the people dedicated to saving a place like no other.